Why am I not surprised at Karl Anthony Towns being disgruntled as a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves? Well, the Minnesota Timberwolves, ever since the days of Kevin Garnett, have not had the best decade or so. From the days of David Kahn even to the current regime, things have been rocky for the Timberwolves, to say the least. And the thing that I believe is the most unfortunate for the Timberwolves is a lot of times they demonstrate a very logical decision-making process. They do make very competent management decisions, and they've done a great job assembling a team. Think about it. They flipped Kevin Love for the opportunity to acquire one of the most promising and hyped up prospects in quite some time in Andrew Wiggins. The very next year, they got Andrew Wiggins, his prototypical center that could stretch the floor, grab rebounds, and does everything you would want from a center in today's NBA. But here's the craziest part. They continue to make competent decisions. For example, they went out and they diagnosed the problem that they had on their team was defense. So they hired a defensive coach in Tom Thibodeau. They brought in Kevin Garnett for a year to mentor Karl Anthony Towns after drafting him, and that really paid off, as Karl Anthony Towns is one of the most effective and efficient players in the NBA today. And you know, whenever I said this about the Washington Wizards, and I'll say this about the Minnesota Timberwolves, you know, when you just make the right decisions and they don't work out, well, that's what's happening to the Timberwolves. I don't even think they've made any decisions whatsoever. They take risks. They tried trading for Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler just didn't mesh with the team. And now they're in a very precarious situation. You see, when you're Karl Anthony Towns, and especially in today's day and age, where you see a ton of player movement, and you begin to see that your team is just not able to get it done, you will begin to get disgruntled. And I'm going to go more and more deeper onto this info that we have about Karl Anthony Towns potentially getting traded. But before I do this, guys, very briefly, if you watch a lot of my content, you see it get recommended to you in the recommendations tab, but you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button, because as soon as I go and hit 500,000 subscribers, I will be going full-time on YouTube, which it's a lifetime dream of mine, guys. I've been making YouTube videos for 10 years, so if you enjoy my content, you see it a lot, please take a moment to subscribe. But also, if I hit 100,000 people that turn on my notifications first, I will happily go full-time on YouTube as well. Finally, guys, you already know this. I announce this in every video. I've been getting hit with some copyright claims, so just in case, as kind of like a cushion or a backup plan, I am uploading my content to Instagram TV as well. So it's Theflightmike on Instagram, same as my current YouTube channel. Just go ahead, hit me with the follow. I uploaded a nice mix for LeBron James's birthday. There's some cool exclusive content over there as well. And if you want to support me on Patreon and TikTok, all that stuff is in the description as well. So you guys know on this channel, the numbers are important. They are very important, but they're not the only thing. But I wouldn't be doing my diligence as an analyst if I didn't tell you how Karl Anthony Towns is performing this year. Cat is currently having the best year of his career. He is averaging 27 points per game off of 51% shooting, 42% from the three, averaging 12 rebounds per game, and get this, he's also averaging his career high in assists per game with 4 assists per game. But despite that, the Minnesota Timberwolves are currently tied with the New Orleans Pelicans for the cellar dwellers in the Western Conference. That's not what you want to be. That's not where you want to be if you're Karl Anthony Towns, especially if it begins to seem like your team is stagnating. Bear in mind, this is Cat's 5th year in the NBA. The man hasn't even entered his prime yet. 26 to 30 is your prime typically in the NBA, but when you are entering your prime, you want to be in a situation where you're winning championships. You don't want your career to end up like Kevin Garnett, which, by the way, what he did was very respectable. You know, he stayed with the Minnesota Timberwolves as long as he could before finally getting traded to the Boston Celtics. It was very emotional for him because he's a very loyal guy. But at the end of the day, Kevin Garnett got to contribute to the Boston Celtics during the twilight of his career, and he was only able to use his greatness towards one championship. It's a shame. You want to put yourself in a situation to win. You don't want to waste your prime. And I'm sure Karl Anthony Towns is beginning to understand that, which is why we're getting the rumors that we have today. But there's some things that I have to dispel before we go into whether Karl Anthony Towns is truly unhappy or not. This is the first thing I want to bring to your attention. Is Karl Anthony Towns actually unhappy in the situation he is? Well, there's some things that kind of are takeaways. One, Karl Anthony Towns has been getting into more fights this year, which could be a sign of him being a little bit disappointed and disgruntled in the situation he's in. Certain rival executives have a reason to suggest that Karl Anthony Towns is actually unhappy, because that is kind of the rationale that someone would have when they want to go and acquire a player. So what is the grounds for Cap being unhappy? It's the fact that the team is regressing. He's looking at another season without hitting the NBA playoffs. The new regime failed to improve the team at all during the summer, and he's playing with a bunch of players that are on a one-year contract and youngsters that don't appear to be understanding what it takes to win. Pretty much, Karl Anthony Towns is turning into the Jimmy Butler of the Timberwolves. Now he's the disgruntled guy because he doesn't think that he's in a situation to win. But given his contract, does it really matter? Karl Anthony Towns recently signed an extension. He's in the first year of a 5-year contract, so the Timberwolves do have leverage in keeping him. But still, Anthony Davis was in a similar situation. He made a very big deal when there was more than 2 years left on his deal that he wanted out of New Orleans, and he fought his way out to get out of New Orleans. Now, I don't think Karl Anthony Towns will do the same exact thing to the Timberwolves for quite some time. He really cares about being liked way too much, but the summer of 2021 is almost here, and I think at that point, that's the next time there's a big free agency class. And I think that's the time where Karl Anthony Towns is going to actually get upset about the situation. Now, what should the Timberwolves do if Cat is disgruntled? Well, the front office and coaching staff have the trade deadline coming along, and I've suggested this trade billions of times. And if you guys have watched my channel, let me know what trade I'm about to suggest. I'll give you 5 seconds, and the trade that I'm going to suggest is trading Robert Covington, a couple of first-round picks, bring along D'Angelo Russell from the Golden State Warriors. You will give Karl Anthony Towns, one of his childhood friends, and an opportunity to compete. So that is some way you could briefly appease Cat, so you could at least say, hey, we're doing everything we can to put you in a position to succeed. But here's the problem. There's a huge problem with that one trade. We'll get to that in 1 sec. But a team of Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, and D'Angelo Russell is a fantastic team to watch. You have the player in D'Angelo Russell that could finally take over the game in late game situations, that could also act as a playmaker. He could play and dominate with the ball in his hands. He could dominate off the ball. He's just such a versatile player and is the perfect point guard in the modern NBA. I still think D'Angelo Russell has James Harden-like potential if he's in the right situation, and Ryan Saunders likes to play an up-tempo type of game, which is very similar, not exactly, but similar to what the Rockets are running with Mike D'Antoni in Houston. So if D'Angelo Russell's in that type of situation where he's running pick and rolls with Cat, he's throwing up lobs to Andrew Wiggins, he's also best friends with Cat, I feel like you could keep Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota. But there's a huge problem with that, and that's that the Golden State Warriors, and this is according to Ethan Strauss from The Athletic, so that's actually a very credible source. The Golden State Warriors have been monitoring Karl Anthony Towns' situation in Minnesota. He's under contract until the 2023 to 2024 season, but has less reason than Giannis Antetokounmpo to be thrilled with his team's trajectory. And this was a topic amongst multiple team executives at the recent G League showcase, with a few relaying word that Towns is unhappy in Minnesota. The Wolves currently sit at 13th in the Western Conference, 2 spots ahead of the gap year Golden State Warriors, looking at another lost season. While the Wolves might dream of a scenario where Russell teams up with his good friend Towns, the Warriors have a differing version of how a trade between the two franchises could shake out. So the one interesting situation here is how the Golden State Warriors would be able to play salary cap gymnastics in order to get Karl Anthony Towns. If you look at all the players that are under max contracts in Golden State, you have D'Angelo Russell, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry, and Draymond Green, which means that one of those players are going to have to go. My bet would be on Draymond Green being the player that gets traded, ideally if you're the Golden State Warriors, but I don't think the Timberwolves would do that. I don't think there's any chance the Wolves would do that unless if the Golden State Warriors also gave the Timberwolves like a very Los Angeles Clippers-esque type of first round pick package, which I don't really see the Timberwolves being patient enough to play that type of long game. But I've seen the Warriors do crazier things. Signing Kevin Durant in 2016 was fairly insane in my opinion. And they also have Giannis Antetokounmpo that is a free agent in 2021. I made a whole video on how the Golden State Warriors could be unstoppable by that time, but I'm assuming if they were to acquire Karl Anthony Towns, they would also have to give up their first round pick this year. I don't think this is a very realistic scenario, but again, I didn't think Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors after blowing a 3-1 series lead in the 2016 Western Conference Finals was a very realistic scenario. So anything could happen. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Wolves are going to be able to keep Cat, or do you think they're going to have to end up getting rid of him? I'd like to hear what you have to say.